Hello and welcome to episode 244 of the FReality Podcast. All right, I'll fess up. It looks like I lied to you all last time because I said we weren't going to do another pre-recorded episode. But we had a little special surprise fall in our laps, which is becoming evident to anyone watching the video part of the podcast. For those audio listeners, that laugh will be familiar to you, I imagine. So today we've got Mike from Virtual Reality Oasis along for the ride. Welcome, Mike. Welcome back.
Yeah, dude. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me back in my weird ghostly form. I can haunt you by floating around like this.
You
like Casper the Ghost.
You remember when Rowdy covered that piece about the woman with the dead kid?
Oh God, no.
Yeah, that's you. You're now like the Phantasmagoria.
Especially because the previous host has come back to haunt us.
It's so true. It's so true. It's funny because like when I picked up the Apple Vision Pro, obviously I'm using my persona from the Apple Vision Pro for the audio listeners. But when I picked up the Apple Vision Pro, I did a FaceTime with my wife from New York, and she said, "You look like you've died and been uploaded to the Matrix."
It's true,
which isn't far from the truth. That's pretty much how it looks.
Dead. Yeah, for sure.
Are you actually real? Is this AI Mike?
That would be amazing, right? If I've trained an AI to just come and be me. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show as a guest. You know, it's been a long time since I've done a podcast. In fact, the last time I did a podcast was actually with you guys. I think I got so burnt out on doing podcasts that I kind of said that I was never going to do one ever again. And so many people have asked me to do it. And I've been like, no. And then obviously when Zim reached out, I was like, you know what? Like, it'd be super fun to talk about this headset. And, you know, because it is crazy. Like, this headset is wild. And yeah, you know, it'd be great to hang out with you guys again. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, it's an honor to be back. And also, I just want to say, like, you know, you guys are doing a fantastic job. I actually think Zim is a better host than I ever was. And I listen to the show all the time when I'm traveling. So whenever I'm on a train or when I'm on a plane, I listen to the show, I listen to you guys, and it's kind of like comforting because I don't like traveling. So it's like comforting for me. It's like being with old friends, and yeah, it's like a comfort blanket. So yeah, thank you so much for all that you do, and keep doing what you're doing because you're doing a great job.
Oh, those are some very kind words, Mike.
Oh, teary eyes.
Thanks, Ghost Mike. AI Mike.
Can you cry in that headset?
Like, you can't see them. It'll just fry the headset and I'll just set on fire.
Yeah. Oh my. So we're in for a good episode today. Obviously the focus is going to be on Apple Vision Pro. For those who maybe have been sleeping under a rock somewhere, that's Apple's new headset just launched just earlier this month. It came out. So pre-orders were last month, as we spoke about on last podcast. So let me give you the punch card for today and a couple of key little pieces of news we're going to hit on before talking about AVP with Mike and the rest of the crew. Didn't get an Apple headset? Well, no FOMO, no worries for you. The local hockey teams got you sorted with an even better headset. Also, State of Play from Sony is playing with our dreams with a new big IP based title for VR from Vertigo Games. So that one was a little bit of a surprise drop from Sony. Thank you. And then devs are playing with my heart and maybe Rowdy's too. Might get us excited for a particular sequel that's coming up, just recently commented on by a particular team, which again, I'll save that for a little bit later. And finally, Apple fangirls and fanboys. Well, you've got a podcast nearly dedicated to this new Apple Vision Pro, a turning point for VR, AR, and spatial computing. I can't even keep a straight face while saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, with that, we do have Jose who's off traveling, and this was organized at pretty short notice. So I want to thank Jose for dipping out, let's say, to let this kind of thing happen. We missed him last podcast. I was really looking forward to bringing Jose back into the ring, but we'll catch him up next time. And with that, I thought I would just do a quick kind of round table, quick intros for everybody. Some people, we've been getting some new people in. Obviously, interest with the AVP has been bringing people around, so they don't necessarily know who we all are. I'll start off. I'm Zim. I kind of run the boat, and the boat hasn't sunk just yet, so I guess that's good. I stream VR a lot and try to keep my family in check. So I run a lot of living things. That's my job. Over maybe to Adam next, and give us a little intro for yourself, Adam.
Yeah, my name's Adam, or Adam Bombani is my full name, I guess you could say, Adam for short. I cover VR, mostly the insane, crazy, if it's an anime girl or a cute dog. I think those are my specialties on TikTok. It's very strange and all over the place. But I also do more educational YouTube tutorials for people who want to get into content creation in VR. And I also am product marketing over at Live, the mixed reality capture software company.
They love green screens. Absolutely love them.
Yep.
But you don't need them, I guess, with some of your products, which is awesome. Cool. Over to Rowdy, Mr. Science himself.
Mr. Science, I like that because, my name is Rowdy. I started out doing virtual reality back in the days of like Google Cardboard. Mainly, I was one of those like low quality YouTubers, I would say, like, just making VR for the fun of it. But my background is in science, and that's like, well, my real passion is, and I love technology and all things related to it. And that's kind of like, I guess that's kind of my contribution to the podcast.
Oh, that's wonderful. We love, I learned so much every podcast, even when you're not even talking. It's strange. And finally, for those who, because it's been a feckin' minute, it's been like 18, 20 months or something, which I can't believe. Time's gone so quickly. Mike, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself for those who don't know you already?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Mike. I run a YouTube channel called Virtual Reality Oasis. I used to be part of this podcast, but then I left because I wanted to pursue some other projects. So I've been busy doing those the last 2 years. Maybe we can touch on some of those during the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been in the VR scene for like around 10 years. I've been making content on YouTube covering VR since 2016. I love this stuff. And I recently flew out to New York and bought an Apple Vision Pro. And some people think I'm crazy, and you're probably right.
Mad lad, absolutely got that hashtag. So yeah, looking forward to diving into that. So I'll tell you what, let's zip through a couple of the little pieces of news that I found funny over on, of course, the usual Reddit, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call that, and then we'll jump into AVP. So first off, and this is one from the list, Rowdy, that I wanted to show off. There was a really interesting little hockey team demo, and doing these pre-recordings, it's always difficult because it's hard to share the video with the people who we're talking with because we don't have a live feed going. But anyway, so there is essentially a marketing trailer that's taking the piss out of VR in total, and it shows virtual reality a museum tour of kind of like an NHL gathering, and people are walking around with what looked like, if you imagine like a tub of butter or margarine with the bottom cut out, just strapped to the face as if it was a headset. You can see right the way through to IRL, and they claim it's obviously better than modern headsets.
I know what you're talking about. I love it. I think it's a couple. Is it a couple years old now, or it may have been older? But I love it.
It says hashtag 2017, so it must be from that area, right?
But it's still relevant to today, and I love it. It makes me so happy.
Yeah, when I saw all the what do we call them, glass holes, AVP people wearing on the street running around.
Was it Live 6 who's like a Vision Bro, like wearing it down the gym?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
so
we've seen a lot.
And Teslas. Good God.
Yeah. I've seen walkabouts in Tokyo, and that one caught me off guard because you see your man obviously driving down the highway, and your immediate thought is like, oh my God, he's risking everyone's lives. And then you realize he's not driving the fucking car. So automated cars, what future we're living in today. Although he did get arrested, I think. Even with
rightly so. Yeah. I saw like Casey Neistat riding a skateboard down New York. That was pretty cool. But I think that's the one thing that's kind of been so wild to see. And, especially us being in this space for such a long time, is that the sheer amount of content and interest around this device has been absolutely insane. It's not only been covered once, but like multiple times by huge tech channels. Yeah. And while they don't necessarily have the background to really compare it to maybe like the long history of headsets that we've tried, they're getting that message across to the general audience that maybe have never touched VR before. And I think that's probably been one of the most interesting things to see about this whole launch. Is
do you
just
think that's
how far and wide it's gone.
And do you think that's because it's, you know, an awesome headset, or do you think that is because it's an Apple product?
It's because it's an Apple product.
Yeah.
You know, Apple have a way of making products very desirable. So even if you can't afford them, you're curious. You just want to know what it's all about. And the thing is with Apple products as a whole, it's kind of like VR in general as well, is that the magic is kind of trying them. So like, you know, I was a kind of a bit of like I'm not bothered about getting AirPods. And then I got a pair of AirPods and I'm like, I can't live without these things. They're like noise cancelling. They connect to my Apple TV. So when my wife's sleeping, it just connects and I can listen to the TV in bed. It's the way that these products seamlessly integrate into your lives. And people understand that. And they probably think that that's likely with this new headset. And that's why they're curious. But this is just the beginning. It's wild.
It really is just the beginning, actually. And I don't, having escaped the Apple ecosystem, I don't often find myself trying out a new iPhone or whatever. But it was and I forget the full name of it. Being a headphone guy, I tried out the Apple Max. What are they called? The proper premium headset?
AirPod Max?
The AirPod Max, yeah. So, and the suspension band with that, and just the way it isolates you, the immersive factor of that pair of headphones, kind of knocked my socks off. I was out at OC, not OC anymore, Meta Connect this year, and I was just in that area and going into Apple stores, and I was like, I tried them on for the first time, and I thought, wow. So it is. You're right. There's a certain appeal that Apple brings with its technology, in that they don't tend, I know they've gotten into this habit with the iPhone now, but they don't tend to iterate at like 10% intervals. It's like, it's got to be a step of 30, 40%, particularly with their new products. And this is phenomenal. And it's also, I think, the first time maybe we've seen Apple enter a market when maybe internally, I mean, we heard murmurs that, you know, there was push and pull as to whether or not they were ready to release this thing. I am glad they brought it out. And like you said, the reaction that we've seen on socials, phenomenal. Like it's really incredible what we've seen. Things are just blowing up. So the ripple effect.
Mike doesn't know this yet, huge. But when he left the podcast, I hadn't re-entered the ecosystem yet, but I have since gotten a MacBook and an iPhone. So
yeah, he's turned.
I have turned.
Got one.
He had
got another one.
Yeah, they do fish hook you in, and that's the problem. Once you're in the ecosystem, it's very hard to leave. It's like a cult. It's very hard to leave because everything just works. Yeah, it is. It's a nice garden.
Do you find, God, I feel like we started off on news and went straight to AVP, but it's fine. It's fine. We'll allow it. Do you find that because you're inside that walled garden, and this is to you, Rowdy, as well, because you're an Apple guy too now. You've got the tattoo. But like, do you find that when you bump up against a normie who's got, you know, an Android device, that you're annoyed at the fact that you can't just airdrop them a file, or, you know, you can't just bump your phones for contacts? Like, is it a barrier on the social spectrum?
I don't have any friends that have Android devices because they just do not become my friends anymore.
That was the real reason why Mike had to leave. You know, I'm joking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. No, I joke. But like, I don't know if you saw that clip. I posted a stupid clip on Twitter this week, and it was like Android users through the eyes of Apple Vision Pro, and it was that clip from Black Mirror where the guy had been blocked by everyone, so he couldn't actually see anyone. They were just like grey blobs. And I posted it just for like stupid lols, and it got like 4.7 million views on Twitter.
Whoa!
It's like, what the heck? People that thought that's what it actually looked like, and they didn't realize it was a Black Mirror episode. It's like, no, he's making a joke. I had to quickly put a caveat on it because people were like, I thought, oh no, like the New York Times are going to report on this or something crazy. So I had to put a caveat on it quickly. But no, generally speaking, I do have friends with Apple devices. But yeah, it is kind of frustrating when you can't airdrop them something or share a contact that way. Or yeah.
There was a lovely, also call it a Jobian slip there. You said Apple again, but that's okay. I know Apple's got you. So Android devices, you do have friends with Android devices.
Sorry. Yes, I do. I do.
So it's melding with your brain now, is it? It controls your thought. Now you can't even say Android, right? Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Right.
It blocks it and just replaces the words. Yeah. But
it
no, it was wild. And just kind of touching on it further, like apart from seeing all the social media buzz, because, a lot of people are doing a lot of this stuff for clicks, driving cars and doing crazy stuff on the streets. But what was apparent was that when I actually visited the Apple store, there was just like this real sense of excitement there. And just from normal people. And and I kind of I don't really know what I expected. And just for context, obviously like me and John had flown out to New York. We'd pre-ordered our headsets like the second they went live, and we both wanted to pick them up from the Fifth Avenue store in New York, which is like one of their flagship stores. So I had an appointment at 5 p.m. John had an appointment at 10 p.m. On the Friday, and that morning we went out for a lovely breakfast, a place called Sarah Beth's on like the south edge of Central Park. It's a beautiful place. Me and my wife had been there before, so it kind of had this kind of sentimental value. And anyway, we had our breakfast and we we're like, oh, should we just like swing by and see what's going on there? And we rolled up and the place was just packed. And yeah, like I kind of expected it was going to be this like secret dirty thing. It's like, oh, I'm here for the Apple Vision Pro, and it's like, yeah, go to the corner over there and you'll get handed a box, like I thought it was going to be out the way, but like it was like so front and center. There were like 2 long like benches full of the headsets that you could go up to and touch and look at. There was like a huge demo area of like maybe 10 to 15 seats where 1-to-1 like staff were going through demos with people, because that's what they want you to do. They want you to do a 30-minute demo when you buy a headset. Yeah, and we rocked up. Oh, by the way, and an hour prior to us rocking up, Tim Cook had been there. Like, we totally missed out on meeting Tim Cook. I know.
So close.
I know. We had a nice breakfast. That's what me and John keep telling ourselves. We missed Tim Cook, but we had a nice breakfast, so it's okay.
You didn't have.
I saw them reporting live.
Yeah. But yeah, we rocked up and we were just like, hey, we've got an appointment at 5 and 10 p.m. tonight, but is there any chance we can pick them up now? And they're like, yeah, of course. Like, just scan this QR code thing and we'll get them out. And it was so simple. John was like, oh no, I don't need a demo. I was like, oh, I'll do the demo just because I was curious. It's really kind of like hand-holdy, like they guide you through like, oh, this is what the Photos app looks like, and they've got some beautiful like models in photos, on beaches and that kind of stuff, and you can zoom in and pinch and zoom and do all these kind of hand gestures, which works exceptionally well. So yeah, it's a really cool demo experience. But yeah, like later on, I'll touch on some like what I would say like oh wow moments, because I've probably had a few of those, but I had a couple of oh no moments, and that was almost immediately when I put the headset on in a demo. And I think the first thing I noticed straight away is I put it on, and the pass through just wasn't quite as good as I'd wanted it to be. Because like the marketing of Apple, like they're so good at this stuff, but they just show it as like crystal clear. In reality, it's not. It's like Quest 3, but without the warping and a little bit more definition.
Right.
Rowdy, about halfway down on those links, there's a pass-through one by Azad from the Puzzling Places team. I thought it was a great comparison between the two. One of the things that I noted was the muted colors and the darker scene in the pass-through, in contrast to Quest 3. Now, Quest 3, to be honest, was quite a remarkable step up from Quest 2. So, yeah. I suppose, but like, with the $3,500 price tag, it's pretty steep.
I
so
think,
you expect magic, right? So.
Yeah, and I think you're just conscious of the fact that you're seeing the world through camera lenses. It doesn't look like reality, and I think that's kind of like the vision, no pun intended, that they tried to sell through their marketing. That was kind of like the first thing that I was like, that's a bit of a shame, but it's pretty good. And then it was just like the field of view was the next thing.
To be fair, though, when we talk about optics and light traveling, I think a lot of people look in the same way that people say, hey, can't my phone have more battery? Like light and how light is manipulated, and particularly to pass through real photons right to your eyes, while still at the same moment being able to process what's coming your way. That's just such a difficult problem. I think a lot of people trivialize it in the same way that they do with batteries. It's like that technology isn't moving fast, and don't expect it to. Now, maybe engineers will get there, but I'm not surprised that at the moment where we are with kind of AR tech, that pass-through is where it is. And I do like what Casey Neistat said, his comment about, it's only going to get better from here, because I believe that as an Apple shareholder. They're going to double down, and the second device is going to be, I can just imagine the slides now, 40% thinner and all this.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, this is the worst Apple headset that they're ever going to make, and it's already pretty damn good.
But go to your second kind of oh no moment. I'm curious about that. So you were saying, was that
FOV.
Field of view?
FOV?
Yeah. And again, it was immediate, because these things are both, and again, this is very much from a VR enthusiast's perspective, something that you'd notice straight away, having worn VR headsets for years and years and years. You just pick up on these things instantly. And the field of view horizontally is fine. It's probably on par with Quest 3. The vertical field of view is kind of a little bit cut off at the bottom. So if you can just imagine like a 5% to 10% cut off from a Quest 3 field of view perspective, that's pretty much what it looks like. That's nothing bad.
Yeah, you could get on with that. It's just, I suppose it's something, because Quest 3 was kind of catching up with Index, is the way I would put it, because, for some time, Quest 1, then Quest 2 were binoculars to some extent. I mean, a lot of people felt that way. And then we got treated by Index when it had this, particularly the vertical field of view. And that's the part that I heard has been the most concerning. And apologies here for 1 second. I'm going to, in case you guys are getting the sound. Guys, can you please stop banging on the floor? Thanks. My kids are literally stomping around upstairs. Go on.
I was waiting for you to get the broom out and just start stamping it on the ceiling. Shut up there! Don't make me come up there. But yeah, like I think it's mainly down to the lenses, like the design. If you look at them, they're actually very kind of narrow, if you know what I mean. They're not like big and round like the Quest ones. They're kind of like narrow, like naturally the shape of your eyes. That's kind of like the shape that there are, like ovals. So yeah, they were the two, like, oh no, this isn't. It's not like it's bad, but it's just like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. Yeah, disappointing is a good word.
When you get the headset, right? Especially not if you've seen the videos, right?
Yeah, but I think the general person's perspective, if they try this and they have no context, they'll be like, oh my god, this is like phenomenal. And that's where you see like Casey Neistat have that reaction, because he's probably never really used a headset for any period of time before that. So I get it. Then we
the resolution of it, i.e. the image for going the pass-through piece. There was a really interesting post I saw even just today showing the panel, the density of the RGB on there in contrast to, say, like an iPhone 15. That's another one, the AVP panels versus iPhone, Rowdy, that if you can show it off, because just the density, I mean, that must look, and this is the thing, it's I'm almost FOMO free in my life, almost. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to engineering and products, and particularly when someone says, oh, you just have to see it for yourself, and you know that to be true, it's such a pain in the rear, because it's like for me right now, I'm glued at home. I can't go book a demo. I can't go see this even if I wanted to. I'm not sure it's even here in Canada yet. I'd probably have to have taken you up on your offer and come join you in New York, to go do that. But like, you see this technology drop, and I'll tell you, for once in a very long time, probably the last 3 years, I saw people starting to get into this headset and was like, oh man, this looks scrumptious, So tell us a little bit about your first few minutes in the headset, Mike.
Yeah, the resolution is phenomenal. It's so pixel sharp, like it's so crisp. The colors pop because it's OLED. yeah, like it's by far the best virtual display I've ever seen, ever. And I've tried like Vario headsets, like the Aero. I've tried the XR3. I haven't tried the XR4, admittedly. Big screen beyond. I've tried them all. This is exceptional. And just like the colors, they've just completely nailed that. Apparently, it's a Sony panel, which is kind of ironic. And it was actually through, sadly, it's Bradley that we sort of got a feel for the resolution, which is something like 3,600 by 3,000 something per eye, which is just way beyond everything we've seen so far. But yeah, I remember getting it back home and to the hotel, and I sat down and was running through some of the demos, and they have this demo, and this was kind of like my first oh wow moment. And they've got this demo. It's called like the Dinosaur Encounter. You've probably heard other people talk about this.
Yeah.
So
but it's just like it's a free app, and you fire it up, and it basically, like, the text like goes through the room, and then it just pins onto a wall. It just stops at the wall. So it obviously, like, it does all this stuff seamlessly, like, like knowing your room layout. Like, you don't have to go in and scan your room with your head like you do with a PSVR 2 or, map a boundary system with a Quest 3. You just put the thing on and it like knows where everything is in your room instantly. So
cool.
The text pins itself to the far wall. And bearing in mind, I was sitting in front of a full, like, floor-to-ceiling mirror. No problems. Didn't fool the thing whatsoever. Like, no issues in tracking, which I was gobsmacked about. Anyway, so the text pins on the wall, Dinosaur Encounter, a little butterfly, like, flaps its wings towards you, and you feel like you want to reach out and grab it or touch it. And then it flies off to the wall again. And as it flies off into the wall, it kind of opens a portal to, like, the virtual world. And you see this kind of like window into a barren like landscape. And
then you just run into a wall.
Yeah, then you just launch yourself into it head first, into the glass, the mirror.
Sorry, I was thinking of a like a trailer roll like almost like rolling credits, but it comes up and it says Apple Care plan, and it gives you the price.
Yeah, it's not for the headset, it's for you. But yeah, and then this dinosaur comes out. It's like a velociraptor-looking dinosaur, and you're like, oh, he's like in the virtual world. And then he like walks out of the virtual world and kind of like into your room, and you're like, holy shit! Like this is insane looking. Like it looks so freaking real. Like not necessarily real, I suppose, but like the best computer graphics that we've seen in a VR headset, probably. And you move your head. And the thing like follows your head around. He's like looking at you.
That's creepy.
And he kind of gives you a little sniff. He doesn't roar. Like I was kind of expecting a big roar. Like, do you remember the DK1 demo? Like the T-Rex demo in the corridor? Like, I mean, that was amazing. Like he doesn't roar at you, which is a bit disappointing, but I suppose they don't want to scare people because it would be pretty scary if it was your first time. And then another dinosaur comes along and he kind of like fights for you, and then he disappears, and that's kind of like experience over. But that was kind of like my first like, oh wow, like the visuals and the graphics capability of this thing is phenomenal. Because like you got to remember, like the M1 chip in this, is it M1 or no? It's M2 chip, right?
It's an M1.
M2 chip.
I think I think last time we talked about it that it was an M1.
Oh,
no, you're right. It's an M2 because it's an M3 in the MacBook Pro. Yeah, you're right.
That's right. Yeah. So it's an M2, so like it's super powerful. And then you kind of think, like something like this could probably run Half-Life Alyx like on low settings. And then you're like, that's never probably going to happen. That's quite sad because it looks amazing and it could be a standalone experience, and there's no controllers, which is like, oh my God. So you get a glimpse of its potential, and then you're like, as a gamer, your heart breaks because you're like, shit, this is all we're going to get probably is like fancy tech demos or like maybe like gimmicky MR games. I don't know if we'll ever see fully fledged VR games on this thing. I'm doubtful.
And one of the main difficulties there, I would say, Mike, is the lack of tactile responsiveness. So like you could have gravity gloves equivalently with the hand tracking in the system, right? You could do that in a virtual scene. The problem is when you're holding it, you're not going to feel anything, and you're certainly not going to feel, pulling a trigger like you would on a DualSense controller or just any other Yeah,
I'm
touch
really
control.
curious
Yeah.
if you tried Synth Riders, because I saw that they have a Mac version, and I was like, I don't know if I would like that because you can't feel the beat, or it's not the same. Have you gotten to try that, or?
Yeah, so Synth Riders and a couple of other games like Fruit Ninja are kind of like Apple Arcade games. So you have to pay a monthly subscription to be a part of Apple Arcade. And because I didn't have by the way, I'm using a US account to use this device because it's not available outside of the US. So I had to create a US account with a US address, which I was given by my business partner, and essentially the only way that you can buy apps is if you preload them with a gift card in the US, because I don't have a US bank account.
Oh my days.
So I had to do that. But yeah, I played Synth Riders, and I was really disappointed. And it's not because of Synth Riders, because like the way that they've implemented MR and VR together is really nice. Actually, I really think it's a great idea. They're just let down by Apple's hand tracking. The hand tracking is great when you're making slow and precise movements. Yeah, but as soon as you start like waving your hands around fast, like that, you can see the latency. It just can't keep up with those fast movements. And a good example of where Meta have done a much better job at like fast hand tracking is if you've ever tried the Move Fast demo that they did. It's kind of like a Beat Saber version, but like you use hand tracking instead. But it shows it off exceptionally well, and Meta's headsets can keep up with it. But it's just like right now, as it stands, Apple can't keep up with that level of fast movement.
That, however, is, as I understand, since we've, I suppose all of us here lived through the Quest life cycle, they basically brought in a model, I think it's via machine learning, to basically cut the camera's time in half through predictive means.
Yeah.
So it's predicting where your hand's going to go. It's not the hardware keeping up. It's just they're cheating.
It's not a hardware solving what they're doing there. It's actually they're using predictive movements in order to predict where hands would be. Meta has quite some technology into that in their hands.
That's why I think that Apple could. This could be a software update 6-9 months from now. So that's just for people who think that maybe it's a limitation that can't be overcome. That's not necessarily true in the VR AR space.
Absolutely not. No, you're absolutely right. Like the iterations that we saw from Meta over the years and how quickly they were able to change things. Like I'm sure Apple will be exactly the same. So I'm just saying, like from a day one experience, it wasn't good, and it isn't good now, but it probably will be updated in the future. But that's that.
Any good fitness apps or anything like that at the moment? Because that was actually quite a heavy hitter when, say, like Quest 2 landed, even Quest 1. People started to get into that stuff. Not necessarily fast-paced or fast-moving, but I'm just thinking that given their market, it would be a hot seller. I mean, I've seen all kinds of funny, like, balance your books at home financial apps and weird things that are there in the list.
The boring stuff.
Plenty of boring things, but
like an Apple Fit VR, like a special headset specifically for fitness, something that's a bit more like sweat proof, and because I can't imagine like sweating in this $3,500 glass front. I don't know, with the battery pack attack. Like I don't know. That sounds awful to work out in.
Another question for you, Mike. Is it operable with the protective sock over the front of it? Because I don't know. I would be so worried I'd scratch the thing, just setting it down or whatever. But I imagine it's not operable with that.
I can try it right now.
Go right ahead. Watch him just disappear from the call now. Yep, that's pretty much what just happened.
Oh,
yep.
Okay. Am I back?
It's loading.
It's loaded. Yeah, you're back.
Okay. That's what happens when you test stuff live. Can you see me okay?
Yeah, you're fine now.
You're fine.
Okay. So yeah, my peripheral vision obviously just went completely black, and then it just lost connection with you guys. You're popping back now.
So the apps that you have, can you describe what you're seeing right now in your environment?
Yeah, so I'm using Discord, and this is one of the crazy things, right? That I'm using there isn't an Apple Vision Pro Discord app. It's just a compatible iPad app. But like, I just load this up, and I give it permission to have permission to access my microphone and my persona, and it just freaking works. Like it's the same with Zoom. Like it just freaking works. And that's the wild thing. That's the completely wild thing. But yeah, essentially right now is just like a big, I would say it's like a 27-inch, maybe a little bit bigger monitor, like super sharp and clear, and I can just move it around. I can resize it. I can do whatever I want with it. Yeah.
Are you using a keyboard too, or just all pinching?
Yeah, so I had an Apple keyboard at home from an old Mac that we had, so I've been using that, and I actually bought the trackpad, the Magic trackpad, or the Magic. I don't know what it's called, Magic Pad, and I'm using that so you can just use like gestures on that, like you would do with a trackpad, which is kind of nice, especially if you're working in this thing. And that's one of the things, like I've been making a conscious effort to just work in it and see how that is, and so far it's actually fine. Like I haven't actually seen or come across like many big roadblocks that I'm like, oh, I can't do this in this thing. The only one thing I can't do right now is edit videos, because
I was gonna ask, because it seems like the perfect device for that. But what's your block?
So there is an iPad app like Adobe Rush that you could edit with, but I guess that Adobe blocked it because I think some companies opted out to have the iPad compatibility thing. It was like a checkbox thing apparently. So YouTube was one of the companies that opted out. I'd imagine Adobe did. Like, for example, you can play like Resident Evil Village on like the brand new Mac and the brand new iPad in full fidelity, like Resident Evil Village, but they've opted out, so you can't play the iPad app on your Vision Pro, which is a real shame because that would have been sick.
It's like for some of those companies, it's because they're making their specific app for this headset, and they don't want people to try it now and then be like, "Oh, this stuff doesn't work."
The janky version.
Yeah.
I imagine it's also a sniff test, because before allowing something like that to go, let's say, unchecked, you're gonna have to apply resource to that project, to be able to suss it out and see what's possible. Do we want to allow it? Do we have legal coverage in the right markets for this kind of use case? So I can imagine something like that is also holding some of the bigger names up.
I had a quick question as well.
Sure.
Well, unless you want to say something first, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, talking about just things that work. The other day, I tweeted about something, and someone said, I think I was tweeting about like maybe the keyboard or something, and someone said, "Oh, that the little, because when you type on the keyboard, a little virtual window pops up just above the keyboard, so you can see what you're typing as you're looking at the keyboard. As long as your kind of window's in focus, that's where the text will go." And they were like, "Oh, that's tracked, right?" And I was like, "What?" So I just like I clicked record on the headset. You just like look up, you click the little drop down menu, you click record. And then I picked it up, and sure enough, the little window was tracked by the keyboard. I was like, cool, end clip. And then I just posted that straight to Twitter from the headset.
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
Like, I'm totally lost. Okay, so tracked. What do you mean? What do you mean it's tracked? So you've got your
in 3D space.
Keyboard.
So the keyboard. There's when you use the keyboard, a little window pops up just above the lip of the keyboard on the edge, so you can see the text that you're typing as you're looking at your keyboard.
Okay, so you're using a physical keyboard, not a virtual keyboard.
Yes, the virtual keyboard sucks.
Okay.
But as soon as you move the keyboard around, if you tilt it, the little window tilts, so it's like it's being tracked by the headset. It knows that's the keyboard, and
That's actually, and I remember going, it was like OC5, or I think it was OC5 when they showed the kind of multiple layers that Facebook at the time wanted to get to for interior tracking. Like, that's a chair, that's a wall, that's your floor. And there was a similar video, sorry I don't have to play it back now, about the contextual mapping that the AVP does. And it's very impressive. And it's that experience that you spoke about, Mike, which one of the most interesting things, I would say, just from your first impressions kind of so far, was literally just the dropping of that barrier. Like, to have no guardian system, to have no need to map out a room, especially every single time, or have to worry about that choking up.
So nice.
What a relief. Like, what a breath of fresh air, I'd imagine, throwing the headset on and being like, oh, we're done, But that's
any room, right? So like with the Quest, for example, maybe it only holds the memory for like 2 or 3 rooms. But with the Vision Pro, you could just go anywhere and it just will track it as you are there. There's no like.
Yeah, like I've seen crazy videos on Twitter of it, but I tested it out in the hotel room and I like was pinning stuff to the wall and then walking through the hotel room and then coming back and they were just there still. They hadn't moved like a millimeter. And I've seen people like walk around their whole apartments doing that, like have like, timers on their fridge and like a productivity station, then a TV.
That is one of the biggest disappointments for me from Quest 3 right now, software-wise, because when the first thing I saw with Quest 3 was anchors, and I was like, oh my God, we're going to get anchors, we're going to get these various apps, and I was so excited to be able to put things up, and I remember playing Demio for the first time and having, posters on the wall, and I was like, hell yeah, this is what it's all about, and the cameras were good enough, but man, we've seen nothing since that. Literally, I don't think there's been one little software ad there, so... Get your act together, Meta, please.
Just you wait, though. Like, you're going to see Meta accelerate hard now. Yeah, they're going to be...
I think so, too, yeah.
Good.
Well, with the family spatial video dropping, right? So I don't know when that's due out, but they've got that announced, and that's crazy. So, although I don't know how you capture it, does anyone know? So I know on the AVP, you either take your iPhone above a certain level or the AVP itself to scan. But when we're talking about the Quest ecosystem, where do you get spatial video from? I don't.
Yeah,
would you record with the headset?
So let me touch on spatial video quickly because that was like another oh wow moment. So I've tried spatial video before in Quest 3 and it's also exceptional. And like everyone that has an iPhone capable of doing this should absolutely 100% try it and try it on their Quest 3 because support is coming, but there is a workaround right now that you can do it right now. And I've got like a little video guide on the channel. Go check it out. I had some spatial video that I'd recorded from my iPhone 15 on my phone. And because my phone account and my headset account are different, because my headset account is US and my phone is UK, the iCloud didn't just transfer all my photos to my headset like it normally would.
Yeah.
So, but the crazy thing is you can just airdrop whatever you want to the headset from your phone. So do you know how you airdrop photos to friends? Yep. You can do that with your headset. I airdropped a bunch of photos, a bunch of spatial videos, and all the spatial videos was of my dog. And I was kind of like, I was away from home. I was missing my wife. I was missing my dog. And I put this spatial video on of my dog. And it's kind of like just a little window into that moment. It's got depth to it. It's like a 3D video. But it's also got spatial audio. So I could hear the birds tweeting around me. And it was like I was kind of like reliving a memory. I vividly remembered like, oh yeah, I remember that day we were in the garden, we were trying to film this video and she wouldn't keep still, but then she kept still perfectly for like 2 minutes and she was so good. And if you've got emotional connection to the content, like you will absolutely cherish this feature. Like Zim, you've got kids, like special birthdays, you're measuring them up against the door frame, they lost a tooth, all these like life moments. If you you should 100% start capturing these now, because one day this will get even better and you can look in this headset and basically like relive your life. That's how good it was.
Yeah, the problem there is for anyone who's got a use case for that is that will sell it alone. It's like when family video cameras came out. People were buying them up in droves because it's like, oh, this is only, we've moved from still pictures to something that's so much more close to real life. And this is another step in that way. So I had no idea that spatial video captured on an iPhone could be viewed back, on a Quest, for example. So
can I quickly throw a counter argument here? Because I mean, I do get it, but it does remind me very much of like one particular Black Mirror episode where all your memories are captured and you flick through it, and there is memories in itself are very, very incorrect. Our brains fill in gaps, and the things that we remember about things are likely very particular things, and our brains fill in everything around there. So it can also lead to a certain disappointment when you relive a memory and it isn't exactly like, how you imagined it to be. So I don't know, like I still think what makes a memory so valuable is that it's there in the moment and you have a memory of it, but you don't really have a physical thing to prove it for. It lives within you, and there is no real, how would I say that? You can't like relive it again. And I think that's what makes a memory often so special to me personally. For other, I get it.
There's a balance. Like, I think you should, especially with social media now, a lot of people are kind of living their experiences with their children or on vacation through their phones versus actually kind of being in the moment. And I can see, spatial video being sort of that way too, where you're like, you want to get the best capture, but you're not actually like in the moment of, oh, your child's walking for the first time. It's like, yeah, but I want to get all the best angles and I want to make sure that I get the 360. So I could.
So there's a counter side to that. That's just what I wanted to say. I do get it though. I get it completely.
And to your point, Rowdy, I totally agree. There is definitely two sides to this, because it does sadden me when you see videos of like huge concerts and everyone's just got their phones out. No one's living in the moment and enjoying the concert. Everyone's just recording it, and they're probably never going to watch that video back ever in their lives. Dude, they should just enjoy the concert.
Watch it.
So my wife and I escaped, got the kids a sitter, went off to see a Tool concert. One of the beautiful things about Tool is they'll kick you out if your phone is out during the main set.
Amazing.
They only allow phones at the very end for one song. And they dropped confetti on the whole crowd at one point. They were doing a really emotional song, and it's just a sea of black with the lighting effect going and everything. Like, it's so different from anything else. So I understand that so much. And actually, as a guy who decided to put his camera down, I used to take, so many pictures all the time. And the time I put that away is when I met my wife. And so I know very, very well how technology can kind of get in the way of life.
Living.
And so. Yeah. So Rowdy's right, but this is where the argument for me comes that I think, and I'm going to sound like a meta sellout at this point, I really think that those glasses, the Wayfarer Ray-Ban glasses, are exactly where I want technology to be and then improve upon it. Like, instead of giving me the full fat package and then strip it down to lighter, I didn't expect this at all, because I couldn't care less about sunglasses, to be honest. And AR stuff generally hasn't sold me. But when I had those on and I was able to take a walk or look at some leaves in the park or whatever it was, but at the same time, almost effortlessly, without feeling like technology was in front of my face, take a short video, take a clip. Like, I was playing with my puppy in the back garden, right? And doing so in a really excited way, but the motion stabilization kind of smoothed it all out, and it looked incredible. Like, it's like I was reliving that moment. When we get to spatial video captured in that way with a wearable set of frames that's, something that I can play back later, that is like maybe just a piece of it, just to jog the memory banks, then I think we've hit the right balance point, is for me, right?
I totally agree. Like, when I saw the initial marketing video and it was like a guy wearing it and it was his kid's birthday and he was like looking at them like, okay, I'm going to take a spatial video now with my headset. It was very, very odd. I can't see myself ever using that use case, but like the convenience of using an iPhone, and I would love for Meta's glasses to support spatial video like in the future. That would be amazing. You're totally right. Yeah. But that was one of the big oh wow moments. And I've got one more.
Can I ask one quick question though, because I've been sitting on this for a while now. You mentioned before that you're using iPad apps, but I know that you have a MacBook or MacBook Pro as well. Are you using the headset with that device specifically as well, or is that not something that you can really do?
So I don't have a MacBook actually.
You don't anymore?
Oh, okay. No. I used to, and then ironically we put Windows on it, and now it's my wife's laptop.
You don't need a MacBook. You've got an M2 in a Facebook.
A Facebook. Yeah, exactly. But I have seen plenty of videos of people using their MacBooks, and you can kind of offload the screen from the MacBook and have like a virtual one. And what the cool thing is that I saw with that was that you can use the trackpad and keyboard seamlessly. I was just wondering, which I think is
with video editing specifically, because I would assume if you would be able to video edit on a MacBook Pro and you can offload the screen, then you'd be able to
that'd be
video
super
edit
nice
on there still as well.
True.
I just was wondering.
Unfortunately, I'm stuck with Windows still for video editing, and I'm stuck with Adobe as well. Like, they're the worst company in the world, and I wish I could break free of them, but I can't. So, screw them.
Well, yeah, go on. You had a third, didn't you? Wow moment.
So yeah, the final oh wow moment was kind of like we were done and dusted. We were heading home. We was on the flight, and I'm sitting next to John, and he's got his headset. I've got my headset. We've both put them on the flight, and we're getting ready for like takeoff and stuff. And I'd already downloaded a video in preparation for the flight, so I downloaded Avatar, the sequel.
Wow.
That was it, Way of the Water.
Oh, good choice.
I downloaded it because I was a Disney Plus member, and you can download and keep videos on the headset if you're a member of it. And so I put the screen up where the plane screen is in front of me, but then I stretched it out, and it was like 50-inch TV screen.
Nice.
And it was like my seat had been upgraded to the IMAX seat. Like, it's like I had a free upgrade. Like, I put my AirPods in, I was watching this movie, it looked like phenomenal. Like, I would say that the display when you watch movies is probably better than my 4K TV at home. Like, it's so good.
Was it 3D?
And
Did you download it?
fully 3D? Yeah, fully. It was fully 3D. They do some weird stuff with that movie though. They change the frame rates around, which looks very odd. It's very noticeable actually with Apple Vision Pro because it's such a good device for watching movies. It's quite jarring actually, but the rest of the movie looked incredible. And the funny thing is, and one tip if you're ever using a headset like this on a flight, you have to put it into travel mode, because if you don't put it in travel mode, the window would just disappear as the plane is moving, which obviously is something
pinned in
that
place and then goes backwards.
Yeah. So if you watch the Casey Neistat, exactly, yeah. You can watch. So if you watch the Casey Neistat video, he's on the New York subway, and the window does move when the train moves. But if you put it into travel mode, it just pins it into place, locks it into place. It doesn't move around. That's a feature that Meta don't have right now. So if you want to watch a movie on Quest, that's a problem on a flight. But no, it was pinned in place. It looked amazing. But like, because of the position, like the front seat was kind of clipping through the display, because it's very aware of its surroundings. It maps it out. It was like kind of like this translucent kind of section of the chair that was kind of clipping my display. So I was like, okay, how do I solve this?
If goes behind, like...
It's like punching his chair, like, move your chair. Trying to watch my virtual movie here. But it was actually John that gave me the tip. He was like, oh, if you just like rotate the dial on the headset, like the digital crown, you can fade in a little bit of a virtual environment. So you can fade it in stages. And what I did was I faded a little bit of a virtual environment around the screen, and then the seat wouldn't clip anymore, and I could place it. But yeah, I could still see my surroundings. When the air hostess came around for drinks, you know, we were ready to go. We knew she was there. Yeah,
That's
very cool.
Did she ask what you were doing?
It was so funny. She goes, "Oh, you've taken your spaceships off," and I was like, "Yeah." And she said, "What is it?" And I said, "Oh, it's the new headset from Apple." She was like, "It's from Apple?" I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "So what can you see?" And I explained, and she was like, "That's crazy." She goes, "How much is it?" I said, "You don't want to know." You don't want to know. But yeah, it was those moments that really kind of stood out for me using it. But I'm trying to use it more and more every day, just to kind of get a feel for what this future is going to look like, because I don't necessarily think it's like right now. It's a fantastic first start, but like this is really what the future is going to look like in like 5 years time.
I'm really curious about your comments on comfort. But before we maybe go to those, on the idea of pinning something in a location, the shadows that are cast by the headset, I find that really interesting, and that's certainly a foot up on Meta's device. I thought of a future where, you know, you'd be able to, just like if you were in I don't know, like a VR chat or something like that, where you'd be able to pin a persistent note in the real world somewhere, you know, like pin a note on a tree and leave it there for other users to find. So
that'd
provided,
be so cool.
You know what I mean? Like
geocaching, but
yes,
reality.
I'm just starting to dream about a world where AR is more infused in our lives. Like, it's something that we talked about years ago on the podcast, where you know, I'm kind of, I like nature. I'm definitely into that. But I'm kind of more of a built up urban kind of guy. And I can't wait for a future when we don't have stoplights hanging over roads. and that instead of that, everyone who's driving has a headset or some kind of HUD that just replaces that. And so there's no need for this infrastructure to be kept
just
up.
Don't be driving.
Well, we probably won't be driving
itself.
right?
Yeah.
But, you can just imagine a world without so much infrastructure up around us, right? And that's been replaced by maybe a natural place, or maybe it's just more homes crammed in there. I don't know. But that's certainly one future. But I'm really curious about your comfort, because one of the things that I suppose we've talked about over the years, Mike, is really comfort in headsets, right? Whether it was PSVR 2 or originally some of the Quest with the original band, and how that would wreak havoc on your head. So this thing, I assume you're using the dual loop band, but how did you find that out of the box, the first kind of experience? What were your first reactions on comfort?
Yeah, so I knew from the marketing it was going to be a problem, because a single band is always a problem. Even with the Big Screen Beyond, which is the lightest VR headset on the market at 167 odd grams, something ridiculous.
Tiny.
It still doesn't cope well with just a single band. You need a top strap, even with an insanely light headset like Beyond. So I knew it was going to be a problem. And I thought I would love the dual band, because that also comes in the box. So you get the solo knit band, which is just one strap, which is in all the marketing videos, because obviously people don't want to mess up the hair. I don't have that problem. And I thought I was going to love the dual band, and I tried them both, and I actually didn't like the dual band. It's not as supportive. But the solution that I came up with is to use the solo knit band. So it's got really nice support at the back, and you can lay down wearing it if you want. Super nice laying down, because it's super soft. And then I use a VR cover Velcro top strap that came shipped with the PSVR 2 VR cover kit that I've kind of stolen from that headset and put on this one. And then now it's super comfortable, but it is front heavy. But again, I kind of said in my first impressions video, it's heavier than a Quest 3, it's lighter than a Quest Pro, and it's lighter than an Index. So if you've used these headsets, you're gonna probably understand what that's gonna feel like. But the problem is all the weight is at the very front, it's glass, it's metal,
we've gone on this podcast for about an hour, maybe a little over an hour. How do you feel now, wearing it?
Oh,
yeah, I feel fine. I could eat. I wore it for maybe 6 hours the other day, just working in it.
Wow.
Just doing, because I work pretty much, minor breaks here and there. But I'm connected to power. 99% of the time I use this thing, I'm connected to the wall power.
Oh, okay.
So I never have to worry about battery.
Yeah.
So being a user for that amount of time, is that what do you predict the average use case to look like 2 months after all this hype has died down?
Yeah. I think people will use it for traveling, because you can take your desktop setup and essentially take it with you on the go. You could set up at a coffee shop and replicate your desktop PC in a coffee shop, So you could do that.
How's that different from a laptop? What, because that was the discussion we had last time. What is the benefit of having this over a laptop?
Except it's a laptop for your face.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's premium, right? And I know Jose was going on about the privacy aspect, which I don't think it's a huge seller, but it's just a premium side of it, right? The laptop screen, you got this tiny little screen, and I think you're weighing it off against the kind of look when people first had iPhones and stuff. You got this really premium product out in public. You're kind of screaming, rob me, but and now it's got the social awkwardness of what the hell is this guy doing wearing ski goggles in a coffee shop? But if you can get past all of that, you've got a pretty feckin' sick work environment, I'd imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the killer app is working in this thing on the go, and watching movies on planes and stuff like that is amazing. But yeah, the funny thing is, with the eyes on the front, they're nowhere near as good as the marketing suggests. It's kind of weird looking, and it's low res, and it's lenticular, so it looks odd from different angles. So it's kind of that's definitely more of a gimmick, I would say right now, but it will get better. And I would imagine, even if it was just a flat digital panel, it would probably look better than the lenticular one.
Can you turn that off? I assume not.
No, you have no control over it, I don't think. No. And I have no idea what my eyes look like right now.
You look very tired. Let me say this.
The longer that we've had you on here, because when you first appeared, it was like, whoa, what is this weird ghostly version of Mike? But the longer you're here, I feel like the more normal it seems. Like I could picture you just if we worked together, popping in a call and looking like this, and like, well, that's just Mike. The animations are quite good.
I do have to say, you look a lot more like Boss than Mike. Right now.
He looks like Boss.
So the funny thing is, I can pick my nose, but it does like a little Black Mirror sensor over it.
Why is that happening? Like, what is the white that appears sometimes?
So if I take a drink, it's just blocking any objects near your mouth.
Right.
Take away from that what you will. I'd imagine Apple, like, maybe we want to avoid people doing some crazy stuff with this with their personas. That's my just guess.
Interesting.
Well, you're blocking the sensors that are tracking, so it's basically a dead zone. For the character, right? And that I suppose they don't want to just interpolate and guess, because recovering from that, if I cover my mouth and then I do something totally weird and I come away again, it's going to snap in a weird way, right?
True.
So that's
true.
They want everything smooth, right? They want everything smooth. Yeah, I don't think it's just people doing great. Well, anyway,
you don't know.
that stuff's going to happen. That's just a time quotient there. So I'm trying to think if there was anything else here to kind of just cover off. So we've covered off that the software side. Were there any iPad apps or anything like that you like use cases that surprised you?
Yeah. So I use Dashlane for all my passwords on my PC and my phone, because like if you're like us, you got multiple like social media accounts, you've got like all these different apps that you use, like Dropbox or whatever it might be. You've got like 1,000 different logins, and if you use the same password over again, it's like really insecure. So something like Dashlane, this sounds like a sponsored message.
It really does sound like a
Dashlane. It's really not. I've never been sponsored by Dashlane, but I do actually legitimately use their product and think it's amazing. And yeah, so it's a password vault that it gives you like really secure passwords, and you can use the app across all your devices. But you can use the iPad app, and it's particularly useful in a headset like this because most of your passwords are on your phone or on your desktop. So having to see the passwords through the pass-through and then type them in manually is a bit of a ball ache. But the fact that they have an iPad app, you can just copy and paste the password straight in, or it automatically fills it in for you.
Although Apple has their own password manager as well, I assume that is integrated into the headsets.
Yeah, it's completely integrated. Yeah. But they use your eyeballs to log into it, so they use Optic ID.
Okay.
So that's the thing. Like, if someone stole my headset, they wouldn't actually be able to use it.
They just have to first poke your eyes out as well.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Demolition Man?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we all know what happened in that movie.
Yeah. What about going from like one person to another? Like, how custom is it? Is it kind of like big screen where your wife can't use it at all, or does she get a decent view even though it's customized to you?
So you submit a face scan when you order one, and they basically ship you a light seal, which is like the bit between the spongy facial interface and the actual metal. It's kind of like this little air gap, essentially. Is that Rowdy? Is Rowdy just gone?
No, I'm
or is that me? Oh, okay. Sorry. Maybe I must have clicked something. Sorry. Anyway, I panicked then for a second. I had PTSD from old podcasts.
It's okay. He's an Apple user. It's okay, Mike. Just calm down.
Okay. Deep breaths. So you do a face scan. They ship you a light seal that's for you. I think there's only a handful of different sizes though. But yeah, say if I want to give a demo to my wife or anyone else for that matter, then essentially what I do is I put it in guest mode. And then when you put it in guest mode, you can say the guest can access either select apps or it can access all the apps. You can choose if you want stuff. Yeah, that you don't want them to see. And then you've got 10 minutes to hand them the headset. So you hand them the headset, they put it on, and it literally just says, press the button to calibrate your eyes. So it reads their eyes, their IPD, and then it automatically moves the lenses into place. So it's got auto IPD, which is something that not many people actually talk about, but it's in there, which is crazy. So it automatically locks in their IPD, and then you have to go through a little eye tracking tutorial. So it's a bit like the PSVR eye tracking tutorial. You know, like it's black, or and then it's white. You know, just so it can. God. I think Rowdy will be able to explain it better, but it's like something to do with the iris depth or something, like white and dark scenes. Anyway, you go through that, and then once they're done through that, then they can look around and do whatever they want to do in the headset. That's kind of demo mode.
What do you see on the outside? Like, I presume they haven't had to do a face scan before it to do the guest mode. So do you get to see like some, I don't know, dummy eyes out the front of the headset with eyesight?
No, so you don't see anything until they set up a persona. The problem is the headset can only accept one persona right now, I believe. And I can't remember who said it. Someone said it on Twitter, but they gave it to their father, and then he did a persona, and then he took the headset back, and then did a call or something, and he was his dad's persona, which is just like freaking weird. It might have been Brad actually that said that.
That's amazing. But that's the thing that I thought first when you joined us, because with the persona, because I thought, well, how do we know this is Mike? Like when things are getting good enough, you could just be a trained bot, right? Your voice, we know voice is good enough. The visuals are, well, the proper uncanny valley for me still. But like what Adam was saying, like it's good enough for a business call. It's good enough for that kind of thing. It's no biggie, you know. So
yeah, and they're getting better already, which is kind of shocking. Apparently, there's a 1.1 beta available for developers right now to test out, where they've improved the personas already. So I've seen the improvements. It's like slight, but it does look better. But that'll be rolling out pretty soon, I'd imagine. So yeah.
What about the audio quality?
There's a lot of crap about the personas, but they don't look that bad. Maybe it's just Twitter where they look awful. I mean, maybe and it depends on the person. Mike's got a perfect head for it. I guess different.
That's
I don't
true.
know how my hair would work on that thing or how well that would scan, but like you're the perfect tester for personas.
Perfect egg-shaped dome. Exactly. Yeah.
Generic white male bald.
What about the microphone quality actually? Because I assume that you're using your own microphone right now, but like, have you used the or are you using the actual headset microphone right now?
Oh no, this is the headset microphone.
Wow, that's really good.
Good.
It's proper. Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, this is headphone, and like built-in audio is amazing. Spatial audio sounds great. You can use AirPods. I'm using AirPods now. Just to prevent any sort of like noise bleed, although I don't think that would actually happen because it probably cancels it out.
I'm wondering though if it's linked to the AirPods, wouldn't it be picking up that microphone? That's a good question. I wonder.
So this will blow your mind, right? And this is the thing. Like I'm learning about this headset every day because Apple like put in a bunch of features that are like quality of life features, but they don't tell anyone about it. And so one of the ones that I heard today was that if you're in a virtual environment, you know, you push the digital crown all the way out, it will put your AirPods into noise cancelling mode. But then if you pull it out and go into pass-through, it will put them into like a sort of semi-pass-through mode so you can hear your surroundings.
Interesting.
I don't know how true that is. I just read it on Twitter, but I was like, it sounds like something that Apple would do. And I mean, that's just freaking cool.
Oh, that is pretty amazing. Well, all right.
I should wrap this. Like, if we're gonna wrap or start wrapping this up. One thing I just want to finalize is I would never recommend anyone actually buy this thing. Just as a caveat, like it's amazing to get a glimpse into the future, and that's exactly why I bought it, because I want to see that glimpse. But if I wasn't in this business or I wasn't doing the job that I do, you know, like I don't know, we didn't touch on it, but essentially I've been involved in 2 businesses, like co-founding them over the last year. One of them is like a small time publishing business where we're helping indie devs bring their games to the stores. And one of them is an MR game, and we legit want to bring it to Apple Vision Pro. We think it'd be a great platform for it. So that's partly the reason why I bought one. But yeah, I would absolutely not recommend anyone go out and buy it unless you're like insanely rich or you're a developer. Yeah.
That's a great call, and good luck. I know you've been soldiering with those businesses, Mike. So you know, I'm glad for the changes, you know, that you made and all that, and it's good reconnecting. as well.
Yeah, no, I love it. You know, like Zim and I have met up and had chats. We actually met up in, No Man's Sky, and just we intended to play the game together, and then we just ended up sitting in a cave and talking for 2 hours about tech. It was like, and then he was like, we should have just recorded this. I was like, you're probably right. Yeah. But no, it's great. It's great hanging out with you, and again, well done for keeping it all going, because you're all doing a phenomenal job.
Thanks.
It's all sticky plaster and duct tape.
It always was.
It always was, to be fair. Yeah, I remember you climbing on your roof with your satellite dish and all that.
That was amazing.
That was so funny.
We had no idea if Mike would survive. Like, we had to go live.
That maybe fell off the roof. Yeah.
Some of my fondest memories are like doing the show in person together at like Connect and stuff like that. And I'd love to see you guys do that again.
We want to. We absolutely want to. In person. And that's the thing. Like IRL still has been, it's amazing. We've gotten 3 of us together, you know, like it's like we've been trying to get that puzzle piece to happen. But, you know, life gets in the way sometimes. But Mike, look, thank you very much for coming along and, you know, agreeing to drop back in. It's great hanging with you again. Guys, we're just gonna wrap it up. I'm not gonna do any kind of formal outro. You guys know this podcast, so let's call it there. And we'll see you all on the next FReality podcast. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.